Hi, I'm Shirlaine from TSC Tuition, and today I'll be talking about how to approach an argument analysis task. The argument analysis task is arguably one of the more daunting tasks of all the SACs and exam tasks that a student has to do in Year 12, simply because it's an unseen text. So you don't know what issue it's going to be about, you don't know what article it's going to be, you don't know what the visuals are going to be, you don't even know how many pieces there are in this task that you have to analyze. It could be just one article, it could be an article with 2 comments, it could be an article with the cartoon and a separate comment. We just don't know. And the unpredictability of it can be really difficult to overcome for a lot of students. But what we have found over the years is that there are certain things that most successful students do, and they are how a student approaches the task. Now, I'm going to talk about this in 2 separate sections. The first is how to approach it when you are doing your practicing, right? So when you're doing your practice essays, when you're doing your homework tasks that have been set by your teacher or by your tutor. What I suggest doing first is to read it through once with a dictionary in hand. And this is particularly important for even students who have a pretty solid grasp of vocabulary. We want to read it with a dictionary in hand because inevitably there are going to be little words that are going to throw you off. And if you're a student who is, usually understands most words in a piece anyway, you will be tempted to not look at a dictionary for this. Now, we don't want to do that because we want to understand every little choice that an author has made in regards to their word vocabulary usage. And there are certain words that an author would not have used because they carry the wrong connotations, because they carry the wrong associations, because they mean just ever so slightly something a little bit different to what they want to say exactly. So it's really important when you're doing your practicing, right, to read it through, look up all the words you don't quite know the meaning of, right, or even just to double check that the words are exactly what you think they mean. And once you've done that, once you've read it through, you understand all the words, you understand all the usage, you have no questions left about what's happening in the text. Then it's time to look for the big things, right? So we want to find the contention, we want to find the main arguments, we want to find little hints as to what the audience might be. Now, it's very important that if you have some background information box thing happening before the article, that you read that as well, because quite often that will tell you big hints about who the audience is and therefore how those main arguments or contentions are working together. So I would suggest in your practice to read it through twice and then annotate, right? So you're finding contention, main arguments, devices or techniques, the audience, and all the rest of it, right? In your SAC or exam situation, you don't have the luxury of time. You don't have, like a million hours just sitting around having a look at it, chat with your neighbor about what you think is happening in the text. Most of the time, depends on the school, depends on the task, but reading time is generally around 10 minutes or so, right? Give or take 5. what you want to do in that very short amount of time is, in your first reading, you only read it through once, okay? I mean, in detail. You read it through in detail once, and you read that slowly. As you're going along, I would suggest you annotate techniques or devices first, because those are really easy to spot, right? As you're reading, oh, that's a statistic, oh, that's expert opinion, oh, that's an appeal to, I don't know, patriotism, oh, that's an attack, oh, that's an imagery, etc., etc. These are really easy to find on the first go. So when you're reading it through that first time, read it for techniques. Once you've gone through that first time, you now want to annotate all the rest of it, right? And this will save you time, because then you don't have to read it through again to try and find all the techniques. Once you've read it through the first time, you found the techniques or devices, whatever you call them, then you want to identify all the big things, right? So who's the audience? What's the contention? What are the main arguments? Those three things you generally want to find after you have finished reading the article, because a lot of the times it's not clear as to what an argument is. Where does it start? Where does it end? What is it leading to? Is it, referring to a previous argument? Is it moving on to something new? You just don't know in that first reading. So I would suggest, don't try and find, contentions or arguments. I mean, if you do, that's great, but I wouldn't make it your, mission that first time round. Your mission the first time round, and really the only time you're reading through the whole thing in detail, is to find techniques and to make sure that you get the gist and understanding of everything that the author is saying. And then once that's done, now you can, figure out what the contention is, who the audience is, what the main arguments are. And that's generally going to save you a lot of time, but also set you up really well for the rest of the argument analysis task. So I hope that was helpful. As always, like and subscribe to our social media so you get our latest tips and tricks to achieving your best in your English subject. And if you'd like to get some one-to-one tutoring, please contact us and we can send someone to you. Thanks for watching.